I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hello friends. In this shocking sequence, we can see a saturation bombardment launched by a Grad rocket battery of the Horde over the Ukrainian city of Konstantinivka in the Donetsk Oblast. A reconnaissance drone belonging to the defenders, returning to its nest after a patrol at the front, records the entire sequence. Remember this video when Putin's boys tell you that their masters care about the lives of the civilians they are supposedly liberating them from their lives. Two Russians are making a strategic retreat through the fields of Donetsk. They decide to take a break by taking shelter inside a disabled armored vehicle they found along their way. Too bad they didn't notice that in the back, the vehicle was carrying a lethal load of anti-tank mines. That's why when a Ukrainian drone came looking for them, well, the result was pretty spectacular. Those two will be listed as missing in action, so their families won't receive their brand new Lada. Thanks to the fact that the air defenses of Ivan the Pirate are constantly being battered in Crimea, Ukrainian strategic attack drones can now operate with almost complete freedom. This time, two FB-1 drones, each carrying a 60-kilogram high-explosive payload, neutralize a Raptor-class amphibious assault boat from the Black Sea Fleet, until there are none left afloat. By now in the invasion, you'd think the Russians would know not to crowd on trucks near the front. But it seems this group didn't get the memo, so a drone came down to ruin their whole afternoon, courtesy of Ukraine's 32nd Mechanized Brigade. Smile, Ivan, you're on television. A Shahed attack drone launched by the Horde is intercepted by a mobile anti-aircraft unit from the Ukrainian border guard and crashes less than 30 meters from the team of defenders. The explosion threw one of them from his vehicle, but he wasn't seriously injured, other than the ringing in his ears.
A mobile anti-aircraft unit of the Ukrainian border guard intercepted a launched Shahed drone. A drone from...
A reconnaissance Mosquito from the 15th Independent Artillery Brigade, Black Forest, spots a group of cheerful invaders who are very busy transferring supplies. Mobile unit of the guard.
HIMARS para darle su ración de berries de tungsteno y así ponerlos a descansar permanentemente. Last
of Ukraine. We'll just have to settle for the demilitarized orcs. It's curious that we're in the 21st century and the Second Army in Ukraine still doesn't use palletized cargo. The mysteries of the Z-Mind. In these images, the birds of Machiar show us how the invaders always try to take advantage of the fog to send disposable infantry teams toward the defenders' positions. A warrior mosquito is alerted to orcs in its patrol area and heads out to show some Ukrainian hospitality to the tourists. Those who had stopped to see where the hell they were. Someone tell Ivan that birds are always on the lookout for worms and are able to see just as well during the day, at night, or in the fog. In this footage, we see the excellent work of the Ukrainian border guards, who use a swarm of mosquitoes to repeatedly attack a warehouse where the invaders have stored a truck loaded with ammunition. The first mosquito sacrifices itself to clear the way, so its partner can get in and take out the logistics vehicle by blowing up its fuel tank. A third Mosquito quickly arrives to handle any intruder investigating their truck. The Mosquito Operators Battalion, Merchiki, or Falcons in Spanish, from Ukraine's 57th Motorized Brigade, is responsible for neutralizing large numbers of infantry in the forests around Bobchansk, on the Kharkiv front, carrying out precision attacks flying at low altitude between the branches of the trees, which is not easy at all. A recent report from the institution based on the March 11th war study, the invaders have not made any advances on this front, but they have continued to carry out constant attacks against the settlements of Bobchansk, Kuturi, Haravske, Staritsia, and Sibin, which have been repelled. Some Russian units from this area, such as the 1st Motorized Rifle Regiment, appear to have been sent to other fronts. The sector features constant clashes between small infantry units, supported by attack drones and artillery duels. But there has been no change on the front line since late 2025, when the invaders were stopped in Seko as they tried to encircle the Ukrainian positions south of Bolchansk. Based on the video, it's unlikely they'll make a significant breakthrough, since their infantry is taken out almost as soon as they reach the front. But it's not all bad for the invaders. In this case, a Russian commander has organized sports activities that include a boxing championship among the members of his unit who are part of the minorities of his country. In this case, a Yakut and an Ossetian will have to fight representing their regions. To give them a more concrete incentive, the loser will have to take part in the next meat wave assault against the defenders, which is always an activity full of emotions for the orcs. Well, that didn't last long. It looks like Yakuto will be the one to have the honor of going to the front first. But don't worry, I'm sure his colleague will follow him in a couple more days. On February 4th, SpaceX deactivated unauthorized Starlink terminals in the Ukrainian territories occupied by the Z-Horde. The measure, carried out in coordination with the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, created a whitelist of approved antennas which effectively cut off broadband internet service for the invaders' units operating within Ukraine. So far, so good. However, what's surprising is that according to an independent traffic analysis conducted by the consulting firm Kintic, it was revealed that Starlink traffic in Ukraine dropped by 75%. And that represented the bandwidth that illegal tourists were using for their activities. Starlink had become essential for command and control, surveillance, and attack drone operations, as well as coordination on the front lines, and it had been operating without authorization for more than 2 years. The loss of the service caused immediate chaos, disrupting drone guidance, paralyzing assault operations in several sectors, causing friendly fire incidents due to the loss of situational awareness, and resulting in a noticeable decrease in Russian attacks. Ukrainian forces have capitalized on the situation, making localized gains and easing pressure on key frontline positions. I don't know what you all think, but relying on a service provided by your main opponent for your army's communications doesn't seem like a very smart move by the Kremlin's master strategist. It's a shame that this measure was taken years after the Horde started using the system. How many Ukrainian lives could have been saved? In any case, Ivan is working on a response which apparently is coming from Belarus, courtesy of Putin's favorite puppet. Since Lukashenko has announced that his scientists have developed an internet system much better and cheaper than Starlink, made available to the orcs at the front. I think all the orcs should stake their lives on this technology, which looks like a hybrid between a portable refrigerator and a cable TV modem. What could go wrong? Winter is already retreating, so life is starting to return to the parks of the city of Kharkiv. Soon, the long-awaited spring warmth will return for the defenders. Hello, friends. We begin by watching the excellent work of the operators of the 414th Brigade, Magyar's Birds, whose FP-2 drones encountered an S-300V missile launcher vehicle near Borobinki which is a well-known logistics center where ammunition and all kinds of supplies are stored. So they proceeded to permanently neutralize it with a couple of hits, which caused the vehicle to catch fire. They also visited a freight train that was carrying fuel, which they immobilized by destroying one of the wagons and then neutralizing the locomotive. These raids were replicated by the operators of the 413th Raid Brigade, who found a Tor anti-aircraft system roaming a field near Berdyansk, so they went down to give it Putin's kiss. It still surprises me that these systems, which are supposedly designed for low-altitude air defense, are unable to protect themselves. Not that I'm complaining. Finally, the operators of the 1st Unmanned Systems Center carried out additional attacks against a number of facilities used by the Rubicon Center, including a temporary base, warehouses, a repair center, and a drone workshop in 4 locations on the Zaporilla front. All these attacks were carried out during the early morning of March 12, giving the invaders a rude awakening. But today, March 16, we also had action on this front, because the defenders really want Ivan to run out of air defenses. In this case, the operators of the 413th Raid Brigade managed to neutralize 2 more short-range Tor M2 surface-to-air missile systems near the village of Balashivka, more than 50 kilometers from the front line on the Zaporizhzhia front. In these precision attacks, the defenders used long-range FP2 Mosquito drones equipped with heavy warheads. Interestingly, they also hit an S-300 radar decoy. According to Magyar, the Russians have started using these devices together with their real systems in order to deceive the drone swarms patrolling their rear. It's a desperate measure to protect the valuable radars and anti-aircraft systems they have left, which in less than a week have lost more than 22 units of different types. At this rate, Ivan may only be able to shield himself with an umbrella from the incoming swarm of mosquitoes. I wanted to move on to another topic, but just now I found out that the 413 managed to hit another Russian Tor surface-to-air missile system, which would be the 4th in just 5 days. Now, to be fair, I couldn't say for sure that it's a total loss, but at the very least it must have been seriously damaged, because that hit was direct. The combat compartment and missile launchers, so it's going to require thorough maintenance before it can operate again. During the early hours of today, March 16, a swarm of Ukrainian drones attacked the Yugneftha product oil depot in the industrial area of Ladinsk, about 500 kilometers from the front, causing a large fire that destroyed several fuel storage tanks. Images shared on social media show intense nighttime explosions, followed by active fires that produced a dense column of black smoke visible throughout the area. By morning, the fire had spread because a change in wind direction caused the flames to reach the tanks next to the fire, triggering successive explosions that led to the near total destruction of the facilities. A horrible start to the week for the invaders, some of whom have begun to ask for someone to do something to end the war. The Russians on the Konstantinovka and Pokrovsk fronts are complaining that Ukrainian forces are overwhelming them with swarms of 300 to 400 drones followed by mobile infantry advancing through their positions. Frontline reports indicate a fundamental shift in Ukrainian offensive doctrine, which the invaders have named the drone corridor, which essentially replaces traditional artillery barrages with high-density, multi-layered swarms of mosquitoes, involving between 300 and 400 drones, which follow a standardized operational sequence, including a suppression phase with waves of mosquitoes, operating on unconventional frequencies to avoid the action of Russian electronic warfare units. These saturate a front of 2 to 5 kilometers, neutralizing infantry firing positions, electronic warfare antennas, and armored vehicles. Once the trenches and the rear of the front are neutralized, a 24/7 aerial surveillance corridor is established to isolate the invaders' positions, preventing reinforcements, supplies, or retreat, after which small mobile assault groups from specialized battalions stormed the positions. Their function is not to break the first defensive line, but to consolidate and clear the area. These units use ground robotic platforms for logistics and evacuation of the wounded, which allows the assault infantry to remain light and focused on clearing the neutralized bunkers. Other tactics were provided by the 425th Independent Assault Regiment Scala, or ROC in English, which successfully carried out a high-intensity offensive in the southern region of Dnipropetrovsk, managing to break through the invaders' defensive lines, which allowed them to advance 10 kilometers and liberate the settlement of Turnov, where the 200 soldiers of the 425th, despite being outnumbered, fought house to house for 3 days to clear the area. The surrounded Ukrainian teams recaptured several fortified positions to reach the Russian rear as quickly as possible, which, once achieved, caused the collapse of the local logistical chain of the invaders. The Mosquito units kept the invaders' positions under control at all times, preventing them from supporting each other during the fighting. During the operation, more than 600 occupiers were neutralized, and according to the regiment's command, they managed to recover more than 400 square kilometers of territory.
La situación en el sector liberado sigue.
And the 425th Regiment continues to fight actively on this front, while facing counterattacks from the Horde to retake the lost positions, which have caused additional casualties among the illegal tourists. The Scala Assault Regiment is an elite unit of the armed forces of Ukraine, specialized in high-risk offensive maneuvers, urban warfare, and assaulting complex defensive positions. The regiment is distinguished by its resilience living up to its name, the Rock. And some of their fame has traveled far, reaching the ears of the Rock Dwayne Johnson, who decided to send a personalized message to all the warriors of the Ukrainian Rock.
Commander Major Uri.
Commander Major Uri of Roka Scala.
Commander, it's the Rock here.
It's the Rock here.
From one rock?
From one rock to another, brother. I send you love from the Iron Paradise.
From one rock to another, brother.
I just finished my workout and thought it was appropriate to send you this message.
After my training,
Because I heard you were a fan of mine.
I'm honored.
I'm honored you're a fan. Besides, with a name like the Rock Scala, I'm honored.
I also know that you are commanding.
Además, sé que estás
Commanding your troops.
And I send you.
Strength and support. I send you mana that comes from here.
I'm sending it to you, and it comes from here. I send you strength and support.
I send you strength, and I'm sorry you have to go through this. But you were born for this. You were born to lead, because your name is the Rock. Thanks for being a fan, brother. And someday we should have a training session here. I appreciate you, and give all the guys my regards. Stay strong. And as a good friend of mine usually says, fight like hell.
Okay, brother. Scalia, the Rock. I'm leaving.
Hello, friends. A couple of Ukrainian F-16S get ready at sunset to face another busy night, neutralizing the Shahed drones that the invaders keep launching against the defenders' cities. You can see they're loaded with medium-range AMRAAM missiles and short-range Sidewinder missiles. Looking back, on November 1, 2023, the then Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Shoigu, declared that the powerful and invincible air defense systems of the Z Horde could destroy all 85 F-16 fighter jets, promised to Ukraine within 20 days. Well, Pilgrim, it's Tuesday, March 17, 2026. The Vipers are still flying, but I don't know where Shoigu might be, although I am sure that the man suddenly developed a fear of tall buildings and windows. The Russian-flagged tanker Arctic Metagas, part of Moscow's Shadow Fleet, remains adrift and without crew in the central Mediterranean, approximately 50 nautical miles southwest of Malta, after an attack by Ukrainian naval drones on March 3, 2026. Aerial images taken between March 16 show the 277-meter vessel severely damaged, with its superstructure blackened by fire, listing to one side and with two large holes in its hull above the waterline at midship. The ship, loaded with more than 60,000 metric tons of LNG and approximately 900 metric tons of diesel, was heading from the Arctic port, from Murmansk to Port Said in Egypt, when a massive fire forced the 30 crew members to abandon the ship. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Transport have attributed the incident to a swarm attack by Ukrainian naval and aerial drones that were reportedly launched from the Libyan coast, which seems feasible considering there are indications of the presence of Ukrainian Special Forces operators in Africa. We'll see if more attacks on Z ships occur in the Mediterranean in the next few weeks. A singular combat like the ancient Gladiator duels, head-to-head, technology versus infantry, or this time, a Z invader and an attack mosquito face-off, both giving their best to achieve victory. And the winner is? Honestly, I can't see who won because of all that smoke. Does anyone know who won? Well, maybe it was a tie. Operations are proceeding so closely to the master strategist's plan that Ukrainian military intelligence has released communications. Intercepted communications indicate that Russian commanders are ordering troops to recover only the heads and identification documents of the demilitarized orcs, instead of evacuating the entire bodies from the battlefield. According to the defenders, the instructions are being issued as a logistical measure, since the commanders know that evacuating entire bodies is extremely difficult or downright impossible under the current battlefield conditions. This is not an isolated incident, but rather a widespread pattern observed across multiple Russian units, suggesting a recurring approach to handling casualties on the battlefield. As the weather conditions improve, Russian forces attempted a raid on the Sloviansk front using an MTLB armored vehicle loaded with infantry, which was accompanied by several motorcycles and some scattered assault groups. The column left shelters in the city of Sibersk and tried to probe Ukrainian positions from the flanks. Apparently, the MTLB was intended to be the main vehicle of this attack, while the motorcycles and supporting infantry groups were used on the opposite flank of the Ukrainian positions to draw attention and confuse the defenders. However, the units of the 81st Airborne Brigade responded quickly in April, requesting support from a BMP infantry fighting vehicle and drones. They attacked the assault group, destroying the MTLB and the motorcycle groups before they could gain momentum in their attack. Once the main incursion was neutralized, they began to neutralize the infantry that was moving in small groups. This incident shows a tactic that the invaders are using more and more frequently at the front, which consists of launching small mobile assaults designed to probe the defensive lines and look for weak points within the Ukrainian line. Thanks to the arrival of spring, which is drying the ground and improving vehicle mobility, it is likely that these will continue to take place.
Este tipo de incursiones.
But the Ukrainian airborne units in this sector already have an effective strategy to respond quickly and avoid being taken by surprise by any attack of this kind. Now we will see another heroic action. In a high-risk 3-day operation, the reconnaissance troops of the 425th Independent Assault Regiment Scalia managed to rescue a group of soldiers from the 30th Mechanized Brigade who had held an isolated position on the front line for 365 days. Due to the constant changes in that sector of the front line throughout 2025 and 2026, the unit was practically surrounded within enemy-controlled territory on the Kramatorsk axis in the Donetsk region. Despite the constant pressure from the Horde, the shortage of ammunition, and the logistical isolation, the defenders managed to hold their position, demonstrating extraordinary resilience and discipline. To reach them, Scalia's reconnaissance elements advance through no man's land, making contact with the surrounded troops and helping them carry out a successful withdrawal under combat conditions. Everyone managed to return safely, once again proving that no one is left behind. According to a spokesperson from the 425th Regiment, which has specialized in high-risk operations, and, once again, it proved to be capable of carrying out operations that require great precision and no small amount of courage in one of the most demanding environments of war.
Bueno, queridos amigos, preparen sus palomitas de maíz y su mejor cara de "no estoy impresionado", porque los pájaros de la 414 Brigada acaban de lanzar un nuevo compilado para comenzar la temporada de primavera 2026 de cacería de gusanos.
The invaders continue to receive the Ukrainian tourism package, which includes a cozy trench in the picturesque Donetsk region, free views of the Ukrainian sky, unlimited adrenaline, and a high-speed space launch service. The ones in the picturesque Ukrainian. The adrenaline images are pure cinematic poetry. We see wave after wave of these orcs running between bunkers and shelters, surprised by the huge swarm of mosquitoes that are just waiting to give them the Putin kiss every time one of the illegal tourists dares to stick their head out of their nest. The choreography is frankly impressive. At one moment, they're posing heroically inside what used to be a small, quiet shelter. The next moment, they're making interpretive dance moves to avoid the mosquitoes. In conclusion, if you're a Russian who wants to go on a cultural exchange trip to Ukraine in 2026, maybe you should consider other destinations. I mean, for your own health. To finish, here we see a Ukrainian soldier who was held in Russian captivity for 3 years and 9 months. He returned today to his home in the village of Starosilia, Bolin region, where the whole town came out into the streets to give him an unforgettable welcome. We see the defender wrapped in a Ukrainian flag, receiving greetings, hugs, and flowers under the spring sky. The footage captures the joy of the whole town at the return of their warrior and the strong community bond that persists in the small villages of Ukraine, despite the prolonged conflict. Hello, friends. The elite operator unit of the Intelligence Directorate of the Ministry of Defense, the famous Primary or Ghosts, boards 2 BK-16 Raptor amphibious assault boats that were patrolling the coasts of the Crimean Peninsula. I don't have confirmation, but if each one took a Mosquito FP2, it's most likely they ended up right next to the cruiser Moskva, along with their crews. An invader walks calmly through an area as if the mosquitoes had suddenly gone extinct. But no, they were just waiting for him to reach his destination so that one of them could give him his well-deserved dose of Ukrainian hospitality. That's going to leave a mark. Spring is already arriving, and the forests are starting to bloom and bear fruit, some of which are actually quite strange. They were pretty surprised when a mutant mosquito came by to pollinate them. Seriously though, due to the loss of the Starlink signal, the Z engineers have to climb onto anything they can to install signal repeater antennas, which leaves them pretty exposed to being neutralized. These types of communication specialists aren't easy to replace, but I guess a lot of people are looking for them because of the widespread internet outage in Muscovy. A Ukrainian loitering munition, Bulava, visits a short-range Strelatin anti-aircraft system, whose crew applied the strategy of abandoning ship, leaving their equipment at the mercy of the attacker. This attack was carried out more than 90 kilometers from the front, making it the deepest incursion so far by one of these munitions against a mobile system. The Bulava is a fixed-wing loitering munition weighing 12 kilograms. Developed in Ukraine, it can be described as a stealthier, longer-range counterpart to the Russian Lancets. It is mainly used against high-value targets in the rear of the Horde, working in collaboration with long-range reconnaissance drones. Ukrainian sources say we should see more use of this system on the front line this year. So be it. The operator from the 414th Brigade named Morok has found a pleasant bend in the road, where he lets his mosquitoes rest while they wait for a customer sent by the Horde to pass by. They don't take long to appear, activating the mosquito's hunting instinct. Since Ivan seems determined to send his orcs down this road, Morok once again brings one of his creatures, which is also rewarded for its patience with a new invader who requires a little stick therapy, which is promptly applied from the rear. We can't show you the rest of this footage with the results here, but you can find it in our next video on Patreon. Denis Pushilin, head of the Occupation Administration of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic, and Vladimir Kirilenko, first Deputy Chief of Staff of the Russian Presidential Administration, visited the city of Mirnorad on March 18th. Both officials walked through streets full of debris, with collapsed residential buildings and ruined private houses.
Destruidas por los repetidos ataques de la artillería.
The city of Mirnorad was a mining and industrial city that had 50,000 inhabitants before the war and was taken in early February 2026. Currently, only 1,600 people remain in the city, as the vast majority fled before the arrival of the invaders. It's quite curious the way the Russians protect the population and help the people of Donbass. Would you like Mordor to send this kind of help?
Ciudad.
It's a bad day to go out for a ride on your quad, since the mosquitoes from the Signum unit are patrolling the magnet forest and are going after the Nivas, Jeeps, motorcycles, and quads that the invaders still have, those who have orders to move on foot. The order also applies to the ground drones that Ivan has also started to use in large numbers to run resupply missions to his forward positions, but which have a shorter lifespan than the 3-day campaign here. The special military operation hasn't been easy at all for the troublesome bear. On the naval sanctions front, on March 12, the Swedish Coast Guard boarded and detained the 228-meter-long oil tanker Seal-1, which was sailing through its territorial waters off Trelleborg in the Baltic Sea. This is the second intervention of this kind in less than a week, following the seizure of the ship Kaffa. The Seal-1, which was flying a fake Comoros Islands flag, was classified as a stateless ship. In addition, it is on the list of vessels sanctioned by the European Union since October 2025 for transporting Russian petroleum products to the ports of Santos in Brazil. The Swedish prosecutor's office arrested the Russian captain on suspicion of document forgery, serious maritime safety violations, and non-compliance with Sweden's maritime law. As of March 18, 2026, the ship is still in the custody of the Swedish authorities. These operations highlight the dangerous reality of Putin's shadow fleet. We're talking about unsafe and poorly maintained vessels that threaten the maritime safety of the Baltic, the environment, and also regional stability, while generating illicit income to finance the Russian invasion of Ukraine and war crimes against civilians. During the night of March 13th to 14th, Ukraine's defense forces carried out a successful long-range drone attack against the Petrovka refinery, the Afipsky oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai, Russia, causing a significant fire in key processing units and disrupting operations at one of the main refineries in southern Russia. The General Staff of Ukraine confirmed the strikes on the refinery and the nearby port of Kafkas, both of which are crucial for Russia's military logistics and energy exports. Geolocated images and open-source analysis indicate damage to the primary atmospheric distillation unit, where oil refining begins. Crude oil, accompanied by visible flames, gas leaks from the adjacent infrastructure, and thick smoke. The Afipsky refinery processes approximately 6 to 7 million tons of crude oil per year, which represents between 2 and 4% of Russia's total refining capacity and supplies vital fuels for military operations in Ukraine. Ukrainian drones continue to apply constant pressure on Russian cities, including Moscow, with an incursion that lasted more than 24 hours. Therefore, as a defensive measure, the authorities have decided to cut off internet service within the city, which they believe is being used to guide, or at least to provide positioning for, the Ukrainian swarms that are visiting them. This has plunged the Russian capital into a widespread mobile internet blackout since early March. Official data from the Russian Amazon called Wildberries reveals a 73% increase in demand for pagers and a 27% increase for walkie-talkies. But the coolest thing is that the sale of paper maps skyrocketed by up to 170%. Obviously, paralyzing his own capital and making Muscovites relive the 90s was part of the Kremlin master strategist's plan from the very beginning. It would be pretty cool if the Ukrainians bought some surplus Israeli pagers and started selling them to Muscovites. I'm sure they can get some cheap second-hand ones in Tel Aviv. The situation remains difficult, but there's always time to wish a very happy birthday to a dear comrade.
Happy birthday to you. I still have a little candle for you. I'll go get it now. Valera's mom.
Hello, friends. Here we can see how the second most powerful army inside Ukraine is heading to take Berlin. That's what the Russophiles want us to believe, but here we see the major offensive toward the west. In detail, it's made up of a team of illegal tourists who really need some cardio. From what I see, they're trying to free the Soviet-era Bukhanka from the clutches of the mud. This apparently will be the pinnacle of Z strategic mobility for the year 2026. At this rate, Berlin should start whirring in about 17 generations. Now, to speed up the offensive, they could put Igor Toratovsky behind the wheel. Show this to Russophiles when they mention the evil and pimply Z. Meanwhile, in Ivan's rear, the activity of the Ukrainian Bulava loitering munitions is increasing, and in this case, we see how they neutralize 2 anti-aircraft trucks equipped with disarmed twin cannons. The first one is the ZSU-23-2. Both attacks were carried out more than 95 kilometers from the front line, which would not be possible without the work of the reconnaissance drones that fly deep into the rear of the Horde. Since things are going so well, the Horde is trying to convince university students to join the invasion as drone pilots. To motivate them, an ace pilot gives a demonstration of his incredible piloting skills. The demonstration ended just like the special military operation, crashed into the ground. In the snowy forests of the Kharkiv front, the operators of the Mosquitoes Aerial Reconnaissance and Attack Group from the 3rd Assault Brigade demilitarized an entire assault group of the invaders using part of their swarm. When a group of drones was sweeping the battlefield to finish the cleanup, one of the operators spotted the only surviving illegal tourist, who was isolated, disoriented, and had no communication with his commanders. Instead of neutralizing him, the defenders chose to try to capture him. To do this, they gave him clear instructions through the loudspeaker, which the invader obeyed without resistance. Seeing that he was obeying but was on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion, one of the drones dropped a chocolate bar to reward him, to help him regain his strength, and to give him a clear signal that he could surrender safely to save his life. This incident, captured on March 19, 2026, adds to a growing series of orc surrenders to reconnaissance drones on the Kharkiv axis. Since the Russian troops recognize that it is useless to launch assaults against a force that constantly conducts reconnaissance over the entire battlefield, if the occupiers lay down their arms and follow instructions, they can save their lives, because the other option is simply to stand by and watch as the night closes in on them. During the early morning of March 19th, units of the Ukrainian Navy, Special Operations Forces, and Unmanned Systems Forces carried out a precision attack against several high-value military targets in the port of Sevastopol using FP-2 strategic attack drones. The main target was the Granite Advanced Innovation, Production, and Maintenance Center, belonging to the Russian state consortium Almaz-Antey. This center specializes in the maintenance, repair, and servicing of advanced Russian air defense systems, which are crucial for the Black Sea Fleet and the layered air defense network of Crimea, including the S-400 Triumph S-300 PM2, Favorite, Buk M2, and YM3 systems, as well as the Tor M2 along with their associated radars. In the video, we see that the defenders did not hold back on the number of drones they sent against the plant to make sure it was completely neutralized, and we can see that it received at least 5 direct hits that caused visible structural damage and fires inside. Remember that in the case of high-tech companies, a nearby explosion can throw off the calibration of a wide range of precision tools, so the damage here is not just from the destruction of equipment, but also from the need to recalibrate all the surviving tools and systems. The defenders keep targeting Ivan's air defense systems, even at the doctor's office. According to Robert Magyar-Brovdy, commander of Ukraine's Unmanned Systems Forces, taking advantage of the dense fog and rain that settled over the front, the Horde attempted a coordinated offensive along a 100-kilometer front in the Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk sectors between March 16 and 18. In this operation, over 900 tourist ZDS, militarized personnel, and others were casualties or wounded during 36 hours of continuous fighting. Mortarite. The Russian assault covered the Rodinsky-Huliai-Pol axis and involved a combination of infantry infiltration groups, armored vehicles, motorcycles, and, according to Ukrainian sources, even cavalry groups. They began their advance under the heavy rain and fog that fell during the night of March 16, surely hoping the weather would stop Ukrainians from deploying reconnaissance and attack swarms. They were completely wrong, as the defenders unleashed a swarm of drones that caused over 100 casualties in the operation's first 3 hours. At dawn on the 17th, Russian forces intensified their attacks along a dozen sectors, which gave rise to more close encounters of the third kind between the drones and the orcs, resulting in 292 new casualties and 221 wounded. During March 18th, still under a dense fog, another 141 illegal tourists received Putin's kiss, along with an additional 136 wounded. After this offensive, Ivan should already be clear that the defenders' reconnaissance and attack drones have no trouble seeing at night or in bad weather. Largely due to the new generation, the reconnaissance mosquitoes of the O.
Producidas localmente, por lo que
Part, the defenders have no trouble seeing at or in large part, thanks to the new generation, an attack in bad weather. Generation, reconnaissance mosquitoes the defenders, or in bad weather. Ultimately, only the orcs wandered blindly through the fog and rain, leading to heavy casualties, as they couldn't see the mosquitoes until they were just a few meters away. At the end of the day, the group moving along the E50 highway toward Pokrovsk on 14 motorcycles and in 2 civilian vehicles was intercepted by the Mosquitoes, allowing the Ukrainian infantry to eliminate the few survivors in direct combat. The result was the total destruction of the 26 soldiers, 14 motorcycles, and 2 vehicles of the assault group. President Zelensky declared on Sunday that the captured Russian operational maps show that the territorial objectives of the invaders are incompatible with any genuine intention to negotiate. All that's left is to fight until the invaders are worn out. To understand why the defenders are fighting, here we see a heartbreaking letter from a girl to her mother, who was taken from her by the Russians, written in Mariupol in early March 2022. At that time, the city was being heavily bombarded by the Z invaders, who were desperate to capture the port. Mom, this letter is a March 8th gift for you. If you think you raised me in vain, you're wrong. Thank you for the best 9 years of my life. Thanks for my childhood. You're the best mom ever. I'll never forget you. I wish you much happiness in heaven. I hope you go to paradise. We will meet there. I will try to behave well so that I can also enter paradise. Kisses, Galia. Now let Putin's sons go and tell the Ukrainians to surrender. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. If you want to see additional content about the war in Ukraine, I invite you to visit our 2 new channels, where we present information about the war in a different format. Don't forget to check them out. Remember to visit our Patreon, where for just $1, you'll have access to a large number of uncensored videos and documentaries. Lastly, visit our store, where you can find items inspired by some of Ukraine's most outstanding units. Carry history with you, and with every purchase, you'll be supporting the United 24 program, support reconstruction programs, aid for the civilian population, and defense directly. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel.